Okay, picture this. Just weeks after demanding Ukraine give up land for peace, President Trump suddenly hits Truth Social. Ukraine, he says, could win all of Ukraine back in its original form. He even calls Russia a paper tiger. Talk about whiplash.
Astronomical is the word. I mean, it's probably the most shocking U.S. foreign policy reversal of 2025.
Welcome to Nation Scope Podcast,
where we dive into the latest headlines, the breaking stories, and, well, the critical events shaping America and the world.
I'm Jordan.
And I'm Jamie. From politics to culture, economy to tech, we try to analyze the news that really matters.
And today, we are definitely analyzing something that mattered. That pivot on Ukraine. How do we even begin to reconcile these massive swings in strategy? Just 9 months?
That's exactly what this deep dive is about. We're going to unpack that whole volatile period, look at the gap between the rhetoric and the reality on the ground.
Yep.
And try to figure out the real motivations behind this huge shift in U.S. policy towards the war. We've got sources covering the whole timeline. The public statements, the private frustrations, what Kyiv was saying, what Moscow was thinking.
Right. Our mission is to understand why the U.S. position flipped so dramatically, and crucially, what it meant for the conflict's future. Stick around, because later we'll get into how this might have actually pushed Europe towards more independence.
Okay, let's set the stage. January 2025, the new administration comes in, and the initial strategy seems pretty clear.
Yep.
And the war fast.
Yeah, the priority was direct engagement with Moscow. Remember that first Trump-Putin call since 2022? A serious 90-minute discussion right off the bat.
And the policy itself, pretty unambiguous at first.
Absolutely. Non-NATO for Ukraine.
Yeah.
0 U.S. troops on the ground. That was the baseline.
But while that olive branch, or maybe just a twig, was extended to Moscow, Kyiv felt the pressure almost immediately.
Oh, intense pressure. You saw it very publicly with that February 19th Truth Social post, calling Zelenskyy a dictator without elections.
Oof, that must have landed hard in Kyiv.
Devastatingly effective, according to our sources there, because, it seemed to validate exactly the kind of disinformation Russia was pushing.
And then came that Oval Office meeting end of February. Sounds like it got heated.
Fiery is the word sources used.
Yeah.
The president, VP Vance, apparently accusing Zelenskyy pretty openly. Not enough gratitude, gambling with World War III, that kind of thing.
And the follow-through wasn't just talk, was it? They actually suspended aid.
Temporarily, yes. But it was a clear material step, a coercive move to push Ukraine towards a peace deal on, well, terms they didn't want.
Did it work? Did Kyiv buckle?
It yielded a reluctant response. Zelenskyy sent a letter, agreed to talks. Trump even read it out publicly. But, as spring wore on, that initial hope of a quick deal with Putin started to fade.
Right, the optimism seemed to drain away. He went from trusting Putin in March to, well, what was it by May?
Complete exasperation. May 25th, he declared something has happened to him. He's gone absolutely crazy. A total shift from his earlier confidence.
So the assumption that his personal touch, his relationship with Putin, would just magically fix it, that didn't pan out.
Not at all. It proved entirely false, really. And that failure set the stage for the big summer diplomatic event, the Anchorage Summit, August 15th.
With Putin. But Zelenskyy wasn't invited, right?
Conspicuously excluded. And despite all the buildup, the summit was a bust. No breakthrough.
And crucially, Russia didn't de-escalate afterwards.
Quite the opposite. They escalated bombardments. That failure in Alaska, combined with Russia's actions right after, that was the pivotal source of Trump's mounting frustration, according to insiders. Putin showing zero interest in even meeting the Ukrainian delegation there.
A perceived betrayal.
Exactly. And that perceived betrayal really set the stage for everything that happened in September.
Okay, so the summit fails, Russia escalates, Putin snubs Zelensky's delegation. Was it just that frustration boiling over that caused the pivot, or was there more calculation involved?
It was definitely frustration, no doubt.
Yeah.
But maybe compounded by the optics, the global politics of it all. You saw it surface publicly in that September 4th CBS News interview.
Right. He said Putin and Zelenskyy are not ready yet for peace. But then he added that cryptic line.
Something is going to happen.
Which sounds less like frustration and more like deliberate timing, strategic foreshadowing.
Precisely. Think about the context. This was right after that massive Russian drone attack on Kyiv. Killed 15 people, 4 children among them. Trump publicly said he was unhappy with the carnage.
And wasn't there something else happening that day?
Yes. Earlier that same day, he'd been watching TV. Putin standing shoulder to shoulder with the leaders of China and North Korea at a huge military parade in Beijing.
And Trump commented on it.
He did. Said they were hoping I was watching.
Yeah.
I was watching.
Yeah.
It all feeds into this idea of him managing the optics, the timing.
It really seems to reveal his method, doesn't it? Using patience, or the appearance of patience, as a tool, a transactional tool.
Exactly. By saying they are not ready yet, he frames the next move, the pivot, as his decision. Deployed when he judges the moment right. He even called the conflict a little bit more difficult than some of the others he claimed to have solved, setting the stage.
And that stage was the UN General Assembly, September 23rd. The big reversal arrives via Truth Social.
The formal pivot.
Hmm.
And it wasn't subtle. A fundamental reversal. No more talk of ceding territory. Now, the assessment was Ukraine could fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form.
Including Crimea and Donbass.
Everything. And he justified it by tearing into Russia, called it a paper tiger, said they were fighting aimlessly for 3.5 years, claimed Russia was in big economic trouble, basically signaling to Kyiv, now's your chance.
The timing of the post itself was interesting too, wasn't it? Right after meeting Zelenskyy.
Yeah, about 30 minutes after. Perfect timing to frame it as a response to that meeting. Gave Zelenskyy a huge, immediate PR win. Kyiv, publicly at least, called it a big shift, a game changer.
Okay, but here's where we need to dig deeper. Because buried in that triumphant language, there was a catch. A really big one.
The crucial caveat, yes. The declaration assigned the real work, the heavy lifting, squarely to Europe. Victory was possible, quote, with the support of the European Union and the financial support of Europe, and in particular NATO.
So what was the actual U.S. commitment?
Very precisely limited. The U.S. would merely continue to supply weapons to NATO for NATO to do what they want with them. That's it.
So wait, does that mean this whole pivot was just words, no actual change in U.S. action?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
It was a shift in diplomatic posture, in rhetoric, but not in deeds. There was no announcement of new direct U.S. aid, no long-range missiles suddenly unlocked, no deeper U.S. military involvement promised.
They just kept the existing programs going.
Exactly. It effectively froze the level of U.S. material support while sounding like a massive escalation of commitment.
That is fascinating. So if the goal wasn't actually a new strategy to win the war, funded by the U.S., what was driving this? What were the internal White House motivations, the personal drivers?
Well, according to internal sources, it boils down to three main things, all pretty transactional, actually.
Okay, number one.
Transactional pressure. Pure and simple frustration with Putin not playing ball in Alaska. The pivot was partly a way to punish him, try to force him back to the table by showing support for his adversary.
Makes sense. Number two.
Burden shifting to Europe. This fits right into the America First playbook. Make Europe take the lead, shoulder the primary financial and military responsibility for Ukraine actually winning.
So the U.S. gets the credit for leading without footing the new bill.
Precisely. And the third driver.
Let me guess.
Personal
Vindication, yeah. He thought solving Ukraine would be, quote, the easier side of his diplomacy. The Alaska failure was a blow to his image as the ultimate deal-maker. This pivot let him grab the spotlight back, reposition himself as backing the winner, even if he wasn't funding the win. But you have to contrast that rhetoric, that positioning, with what was actually happening on the ground in September 2025.
Absolutely crucial. Russia still controlled nearly a fifth of Ukraine. That's 45,000 square miles, about the size of Ohio. And they'd recently gained ground, another 200 square miles.
And diplomacy.
Complete stalemate. Russia wasn't budging on its maximalist demands. So declaring total victory was possible felt, well, profoundly disconnected from the military reality.
It's just hard to keep track of the policy, isn't it? The constant shifts.
And that unpredictability, that's what really shook international relations. You saw these immediate conflicting reactions everywhere.
How did Kyiv take it, beyond the public statements?
Publicly, a cautious embrace hailed the game changer, but privately. Officials were desperately saying, we need actions, not just words. We need tougher sanctions. They hoped it meant more, but weren't banking on it.
And Moscow? They just shrugged it off.
Publicly, yeah. Their deputy UN ambassador basically said, don't get so excited about every tweet. But behind that dismissal, there was real concern. You had Deputy Medvedev issuing a veiled nuclear threat.
Really? Linking it to the pivot?
Explicitly linking Russia staying in the New START treaty to the U.S., backing off all economic pressure. So not shrugging it off at all, privately.
Wow. And even within Washington, was everyone on the same page?
Not exactly. You had White House officials telling reporters off the record this was just a negotiating tactic born of personal frustration. But then Secretary of State Rubio goes out and repeats the standard line. The war ends at the negotiating table, not the battlefield.
A major disconnect.
Yeah, highlighting confusion about what the administration's actual endgame even was.
Which brings us to the allies, particularly in Europe. The long-term damage there seems significant.
Absolutely. This kind of policy whiplash just shreds trust. Can you rely on the U.S. as a partner when things change so dramatically, seemingly on a whim? It forced Europe to really accelerate its own defense plans.
Is that where the coalition of the willing came from?
That was a direct result. France, the UK, leading an effort to build robust, European-led security guarantees. It was a clear response to having, as they saw it, an unreliable and unpredictable partner in Washington, pushing them towards strategic autonomy.
So, summing this all up, the 2025 Ukraine diplomacy saga really looks like a case study, doesn't it? Foreign policy becoming dangerously vulnerable when it's all tied to one leader's personal instincts and, frankly, frustrations.
It created huge instability, profound uncertainty for allies. And, the irony is, America First was partly intended to make allies step up under U.S. leadership.
Right, to get them to pay more, contribute more.
But if the policy achieves that goal, greater European defense spending, only by completely destroying their faith in U.S. reliability,
Yeah.
did it actually strengthen America's long-term influence? Or did it diminish it?
That's definitely something for you, our listeners, to think about. Did it ultimately help or hurt American global standing?
A complex question with no easy answer.
You've been listening to Nation Scope Podcast, where Jordan and Jamie analyze the stories shaping America and the world. We hope you found this deep dive into the 2025 Ukraine pivot insightful.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.